Have you ever thought about quitting gambling? And if there was a program out there that made it significantly more difficult for you to go and place that bet, would you sign up for it? Because once I found out about that program, which actually exists, and I'm going to tell you about throughout this video, I was able to stay away from gambling, and now I'm over a year clean. My name is Rob, and I'm a recovering compulsive gambler. Made my last bet November the 12th of 2022. Now I come online and share my story in hopes that you can learn from my mistakes and not go down the same path that I did. If you're watching this video and you're not addicted to gambling, that is awesome. If you're watching this video and you are addicted to gambling, then you're in the right spot. Either way, I hope that you can learn from my experience so you don't have to go through the same things that I did. So what is this program that exists that makes it significantly more difficult for you to go and gamble? Well, it's actually really simple and it's available pretty much everywhere. It's called self-exclusion. This is essentially telling the casinos, hey, I am voluntarily telling you that I don't want to play here anymore. I want to be banned from playing at your casino or sportsbook. And while that might sound dramatic, if you've ever thought to yourself, hey, maybe I need a cooling off period, maybe I need to take a break, then this is something that you should be looking at. Because I told myself I needed a break hundreds of times without ever actually following through. But once I signed up for self-exclusions, it made it so much more difficult for me to gamble that it actually gave me the motivation I needed to get and stay clean. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do a self-exclusion on a very popular sportsbook, as well as, depending on what state you live in, how to do it on your state's website. Additionally, I'm going to show you how to do it in an online casino as well, though that is admittedly a little bit less effective. So maybe we should start there and we'll build it up, each time becoming more effective in the process of keeping you away from the bet. I'm going to tell you exactly why. So the first website that I went over to was Stake, and as mentioned, it's not so easy and it's not that effective to do their self-exclusions. The reason that is because you can just sign up for another account with another crypto wallet. But what the self-exclusion program does do is makes it more difficult for you to access. And with a site like Stake, or one of these cryptocurrency casinos, making it difficult is so key because of how accessible it already is. So making as many difficulties in the way as possible will give you the chance to make a better decision. Most of my methods for fighting against gambling urges involve stepping back and saying, hey, is this the right decision? Give yourself the time to think about that, because if you don't, you're going to make the wrong decision. Yeah, after I was looking around on their website for a little while, I did find the self-exclusion function, but it was also sending me back to their responsible gambling, and then one said to go to the other, which said to go back to the other. In the end, I found out that what you have to do is you have to email them. They don't have a formal process on their website. You email them and they close your account based on your request. So that probably involves them trying to talk you back into gambling as well, or telling you to use limits or budgets in some way, because they don't want to see you go. But the truth is that if you're thinking about quitting, you should absolutely quit. No matter what someone says to you, no matter what offer the sales rep gives to you, because no one who doesn't need to leave it behind would ever have the thought to take a break from it. Next, I went over to one of the popular American sports books, FanDuel. It's pretty much the same process across the board with all of these places. They also had a responsible gambling tab, and in there it was a little more clean-cut, admittedly, to find the self-exclusion page. And what's so effective about self-exclusions with these state-run sports books is that you are actually tethered to your social security number, so you can't just make another account. It bans you based on your identity, which is very valuable when you're trying to keep yourself accountable and step away from it. But self-exclusion is really important because if you're not doing it and it's right in front of you, it's going to take you 5 seconds to place a bet. Imagine the difference in the results if it takes 50 minutes even. You're going to be in such a different place when you get the time to actually think about it. Because I get gambling urges sometimes, but they're so brief, right? It'll be like, oh, you should go place a bet. But then it's gone within a couple minutes. So if it's more difficult than just a few minutes, then I'm more likely than not to say, okay, that's a bad idea. Why was I having this thought? How can I correct it? And again, these American sports books do okay with the self-exclusion process. It's just a shame that this is what we have to combat against the casino industry, is that it all falls on the individual. But it's what we got, and they did an okay job at showing you where to find it. Check out the responsible gambling tab of whatever sportsbook or casino you're using to do an online self-exclusion. That also applies to the in-person. Now, the most effective way is to do state-based self-exclusions, and it's a shame we don't have nation-based self-exclusions yet as the United States, but whatever. Australia's just implemented it and it's seeing great results already. I think we're just a couple years behind, and eventually we will see a national self-exclusion registry. If you're in a state like New Jersey and some others, then you can go to the state's website and fill out the self-exclusion registration and removal. In there, you're able to just click a couple of forms, and voila, you're not allowed to gamble at any sportsbook or casino, in person or online, within the vicinity of that state. Now, what's important right here is to note that it just applies to that state, but you can also fill out self-exclusions in surrounding states. That's one of the mistakes that I made when I had my relapse back on November the 12th, was that I had moved to Pennsylvania and not done the self-exclusion through their state register. It's really important that you self-exclude from any state which you're going to be able to access, because those temptations may arise, but as long as you're prepared, no matter what state you're around, if you have to drive 5 hours, that's a lot different than driving 15 minutes, right? So hopefully that gives you the deterrent that you needed to make the right decision. The best way that you can look at gambling addiction recovery is as an onion. Self-exclusion is one layer. But essentially, there's thousands of casinos out there at all times that you can access. So self-exclusion is not the only solution that you need to be employing. However, without it, you're putting yourself in a worse position. It's one of the tools in your tool belt to make gambling more difficult to access. When you're trying to break a bad habit, it is so important to make it difficult to access. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, talks about the 4 main things that you need to focus on to kick a bad habit: to make it invisible, to make it difficult, to make it unattractive, and to make it unsatisfying. And making it difficult is what we're doing here with a self-exclusion. Again, there's a very big difference between 5 seconds and 5 minutes to place a bet. So if you're serious about quitting gambling, it's very important that you do as many self-exclusions as possible. Whether that's your state, whether that's online at a crypto casino, or whether it's at a sportsbook like a FanDuel or a DraftKings. If you have ever thought to yourself, I should stop gambling, you absolutely should. And that doesn't mean to take a year off. That means to quit for as long as it allows you to exclude for. Because no one that didn't need to quit permanently would ever have those thoughts. I self-excluded from every single casino and sportsbook I've ever played on, and it was the best thing that I could have ever done. Now, that doesn't mean that I wasn't able to find ways around it, but at the same time, having it be more difficult just made such an impact for me, because you have to think to yourself, right? If you're always just going back to gambling out of sheer habit and it's just what you do, if you have to put some thought into it, you're gonna realize how bad of a decision it actually is. Since I've been in recovery now, whenever I get one of those gambling urges, it's no longer, oh, let me act on it and regret it later. It's let me think about it. And then when I think about it, suddenly I don't make that action. I don't take that step to go and gamble, because I know that at the end of the day, whether I win that first bet or not, it's always going to end the same way. It is a cycle of addiction. Wins just allow me to gamble more to create bigger losses in the future, and losses create frustration where I have to chase in order to get the money back. It doesn't matter if you win or you lose, because you're always going to continue once you get started if you are hooked to gambling in any way like I am. So this has been a guide to self-exclusion and why it's so important to utilize it in order to live a happier and healthier life in gambling addiction recovery. Now, you don't necessarily have to have been a gambling addict to learn something from this, right? What we can learn from it is that if you're ever feeling like you're experiencing a problem, there is a way out. A lot of times people don't feel like there's a way out of a bad situation, so they try to just dig their way out by gambling more, which ironically makes things significantly worse. So if you're feeling like, hey man, I cannot stop gambling, it is right in front of me, the temptation is right here, self-exclusion is one way to make it more difficult and separate yourself from that temptation that's dragging you down. I know that we can keep living happier and healthier lives without the chaos of gambling, and all of that happens one day at a time.